Hey folks, back with another Questionable Quotes live stream here on the Focus Press Facebook page this Wednesday. You might be catching it later on the YouTube channel or the Church Reset podcast feed, trying to cover all of our bases here, but I also do enjoy going live, and so if you are live with me here on Facebook, drop a comment or leave a like, and try and keep an eye out for that as I go through this week's quote. This one is a really popular one, and one that I think is intended many times to be comforting in times of trial and struggle and when life gets difficult, but I don't think it helps as much as maybe we think it should, and I'm not sure how scriptural it is. But there's also some good in this one. Some of the other quotes we've gone over, it's been wholesale rejection. This one, it's going to be a little bit more positive, I guess we'll put it that way. So the quote this week is, God won't give you more than you can handle. Anytime, again, a trial comes up, when health fails, when finances fail, when catastrophe hits, and I mean, you just see things like we've seen in the news in this last week with a hurricane and things like that, natural disasters. I mean, there's just so many ways life can throw us a curveball and put us in a difficult situation. And so sometimes the comforting word from fellow Christians is, God won't give you more than you can handle. Well, is that true? Is that something the Bible teaches? I want to first of all take the first half of the phrase there, God won't give you. Not everything comes from God. Not everything that happens is caused by God. I mean, some people believe that. I certainly do not. I believe He's allowed us free will. He allows bad people to do things that are not what He would have them do. I mean, that's the idea of free will in itself, right? And we live in a world in which it's a fallen world, and death and destruction and disease and catastrophes happen because it's a sin, sick, fallen world, and that's not God's fault. That doesn't come from Him. And you think about the book of Job, God allowed those things, but it wasn't Him doing those things. God wasn't giving those things to Job. He was allowing Job to be given them by Satan, by the accuser there at the start of the book. And as Satan can still do that. Satan can still put trials on people and bring them into those difficult situations. And sometimes it's just people themselves and bad decisions that are made by a family member or a loved one or someone near to you. Or, I mean, the driver in the car next to you makes a bad decision. That might be all it comes down to. And so it's not always God giving you those things. And we have the promise in Romans 8:28 of God making all things work together for good of those who love Him. But that's an after the fact. God's not making all things happen for your good. God is taking all things that do happen and turn them toward your good, which is a comforting thing in that we have a God that has allowed free will, allows people to do bad things, allows people to do things that can harm our lives and harm us and our family and people we love, but God can make good come of the worst situations, as the cross definitively proves for us. And so on that first half, when somebody's going through something, let's be careful not to say that God is giving them this trial. God is putting them through this. It might not be something God has laid on them, first of all. I mean, I think that just exacerbates the problem of pain and suffering that atheists like to charge against us so often. God's not making all the bad things in the world happen. Now, we still have to answer, why does He allow those things to happen? And I think there are answers for those, but let's not make Him the producer of all the evil and all of the trials and difficulties we see. The second half of it, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. That is drawing on, let's look at the scriptures here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. So there's a little bit of there that kind of indicates, and you can see maybe where people are going with this idea of what more than you can handle, and it's what's common to man. He's not allowed you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But notice the end of that verse, with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. He's giving you an out. He's giving you help. He's there with you and not telling you handle it on your own. Because if you look at the verse before, therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. And so you've got kind of that both sides of this here. It's not too much for you. It's something where He's going to give you the way of escape. He's going to help you endure it, or He's going to let you have what you need to have to endure it. Don't think that you're strong enough. Don't think that it's on you. And I think sometimes this well-meaning quote helps us think we're stronger than we are. You'll see God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. I don't know if there's scriptural proof for that either. I think there's the idea of just lean on him. And I think Paul helps us understand this in 2 Corinthians 12 when he's talking about the thorn in the flesh. At the end of verse 7 it says, messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. But verse 9 is the key. He has said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. And then he says, I'm content with weaknesses, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So, kind of the other side of the equation here with this, of having the humility, of having the recognition it's not my strength, that it's causing me to lean on Jesus. And so when we talk about these trials, number one, maybe God didn't give it to us, but number two, he's allowing us to go through it knowing we can grow in our strength in him coming through it. As James talks about in James chapter 1, 2 through 4, of considering it all joy when we encounter various trials, because that testing of our faith produces endurance. It makes us stronger because we have to lean on faith and not on ourselves. It's not in my own strength. It's not more than I can handle because I'm strong enough for it. It's I'm weak, Christ is strong, and that helps us understand that. And then one more, looking at 2 Corinthians 4, Paul talked about this and the difficulties they went through for the ministry, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, 2 Corinthians 4:7, so that the surpassing greatness of the power will be of God and not from ourselves. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not despairing, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed, always carrying about in the body the dying of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus also may be manifested in our body. For we who live are constantly being delivered over to death for Jesus' sake, so that the life of Jesus also may be manifested in our mortal flesh. Again, going through a lot of things, dealing with a lot of those things, but it's the surpassing greatness of the power of God that we have this weakness. We have this ability to bear these things in our flesh that are difficult because they bring us back onto the power and the support and the strength of God. And as Philippians 4:13 is talking about, that it's so often taken out of context, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so with that idea of that God doesn't give us more than we can handle, if somebody's pointing you back to Christ with that, that's great. If it's building up our own strength, that's setting us up for failure. It's setting us up for disappointment and really frustration with God to think, man, I really can't handle this. Sometimes life really is that hard. That's the beauty of it, is he's there for us. I think you could rephrase it as God won't allow you to face more than he can handle. There's nothing that God can't handle. There's nothing he can't get us through. So anything that he allows us to go through is something that he can get us through if we'll lean on him, if we'll rely on him and not in our own strength. And so we have to be careful with quotes like these. I think a lot of people are set up for a blow to their faith in God when bad times come their way, to think, I wasn't ready for this, I can't handle this, and I was told God wouldn't give me more than I can handle. I'm not sure God loves me or cares about me, or whatever the case may be. So again, well-meaning, but we need to be careful with the kind of comfort we give, and in all things point people back to the glory of Christ, who's there for us, who has the strength that we need to get through. So that's this week's questionable quote. And next week I'm going to talk about another one intended to be comforting, but a misunderstanding, and maybe a few of them kind of rolled into one. But we'll start with heaven gained another angel, and some of the funeral comforts that we hear that aren't really biblical, but it's not to take the comfort away. It's to say, actually, it's better than what people usually are trying to say to give people comfort. So if you have any of these quotes, these religious quotes that have been misconstrued, that are common but misunderstand key biblical truths, send them my way. I'll add it to the list. We've looked at hating religion but loving Jesus. We've looked at God wants me to be happy, things like that. And so if you have any to add to the list, be sure to send it my way. As always, you can catch these on the Focus Press Facebook page, midday on Wednesdays, on the Focus Press YouTube channel, and if you don't have time to sit and watch a video, the Church Reset podcast feed for the audio. So I'll be coming back with the next one next week. Again, any quotes you have, leave it in the comments or send me a message, and I will talk to you guys next week.